Today, we're going to look at the circulatory system as well as some diseases associated with the circulatory system. Now, before we get to the mammalian heart, let's first look at the different types of circulatory systems that we get. So the first type that we're going to look at is the circulatory system of a fish. Now, a fish has a single circulatory system, meaning that blood moves through the heart once to be able to circulate the whole body. Now, a fish has a two-chambered heart. It has an atrium and a ventricle. So deoxygenated blood will enter the atrium, move through the ventricle, and then towards the gills. Here, the deoxygenated blood will be oxygenated by the oxygen in water, and then oxygenated blood will move through the rest of the body towards body cells where the oxygen will be used out of the blood. The deoxygenated blood will then move back towards the two-chambered heart. Next, we're going to have a look at the amphibian heart. Now, the amphibian heart is made up of 3 chambers. It has the left atrium, as well as the right atrium, and then only one ventricle. Now, deoxygenated blood will enter the right atrium, move towards the ventricle, and then up towards the lungs. Here, the blood will become oxygenated and then move back towards the heart. It will enter the heart at the left atrium, then into the ventricle again, then out of the heart towards the cells of the body. This is where the oxygen will be used up and deoxygenated blood will move back towards the heart. The one thing that we can notice here is that there's no center piece in the heart that separates the deoxygenated and oxygenated blood, meaning that this blood can mix. Then we can move towards the mammalian heart. Now, the mammalian circulatory system is a double circulatory system, meaning that blood flows through the heart twice to be able to circulate the body once. So the mammalian heart is made up of 4 chambers. They have the left atrium as well as the left ventricle. Then they have the right atrium as well as the right ventricle. So here we can see the 2 sides of the heart are separated by the septum, which means that deoxygenated blood will flow into the right atrium, then into the right ventricle, then towards our lungs where it will become oxygenated. The oxygenated blood will then move towards the heart, through the left atrium, left ventricle, and then towards our body cells where the oxygen will be used up. The oxygenated blood then moves back towards the heart, and our oxygenated and deoxygenated blood do not mix at all. There's some advantages to a double circulatory system. First, the blood traveling through the small capillaries in the lungs will lose a lot of pressure that was given to it by the pumping of the heart. This means that the blood won't be able to travel fast. Now, by returning the blood to the heart after going through the lungs, its pressure can be raised again before sending it to the body. This means that cells can be supplied with oxygen and glucose they need for respiration faster and more frequently. Now, if we go into more detail of the mammalian circulatory system, we can see that there's kind of 2 parts. So firstly, deoxygenated blood will flow through the pulmonary artery towards the lungs. It will then flow through the pulmonary vein towards the heart. Now, this is called our pulmonary circulation. After this, oxygenated blood will flow through the aorta, and then it could enter the hepatic artery. Now, this artery goes towards the liver. Deoxygenated blood from the liver will then move through the hepatic vein back towards the heart. Now, another path that oxygenated blood can take is that it could move through the mesenteric artery. Now, the mesenteric artery flows towards the gut. Deoxygenated blood from the gut can then flow towards the liver through the hepatic portal vein and then back towards the heart through the hepatic vein. Then, oxygenated blood can also flow through the renal artery, and this is towards the kidneys. Deoxygenated blood from the kidneys can then flow through the renal vein back towards the heart. The rest of the blood will then go to other organs in the body. Let's now look at some heart activity. So heart activity can be measured using a pulse rate or listening to the sounds of our valves closing by using a stethoscope. But most of the time we monitor it by using an ECG. Now the heart rate and also the pulse rate is measured in beats per minute. So this little ECG figure that you see is 1 heartbeat. Now we can also investigate the effect of exercise on the heart rate. We can firstly record the pulse rate at rest for a minute. This is called the resting heart rate. Then we can also measure it during exercise as well as after exercise, and then compare the ECG figures for each heart rate. So here we can see an echocardiogram for different phases of exercise. So the first one is prior to exercise, and we can see that the heartbeats are spaced evenly from each other. Then the second one shows during exercise. We can see here that the heart rate's much quicker. There's about 2.5 heartbeats for every 1 heartbeat prior to the exercise. So here we can see that the heart rate increased. Now there's many reasons why the heart rate would increase. The main reason is to supply the muscle cells with more blood. The reason why more blood is needed is because the muscle cells need oxygen to produce energy through aerobic cellular respiration. Now, to get more oxygen to our muscle cells, our heart needs to be able to pump more blood. This also means that our breathing rate will also increase. But having more heartbeats or more frequent heartbeats aren't the only difference between the prior to exercise ECG and the during exercise ECG. Our during exercise ECG has a higher maximum and a lower minimum than our prior to exercise ECG. This shows that the heart would also pump with more force. The third ECG shows us 1 minute post-exercise. So here we can see our heart rate is slowing down, but it is still pumping at a higher force, as we still have the same maximum and the same minimum as our during exercise. This is to counteract our oxygen debt. Now, oxygen debt is when our body undergoes anaerobic respiration, meaning that it's not getting enough oxygen to the muscle cells. It starts the process of making energy without oxygen, but this oxygen needs to be replaced after exercise. Then lastly, we have the 1 hour 16 minutes post-exercise, and here we can see that our heart rate returned to normal. Here the ECG is almost similar to that prior to exercise. Lastly, we're going to look at coronary heart disease. Now, our heart is made up of muscle cells that need their own supply of blood to deliver oxygen, glucose, and other nutrients, and to remove carbon dioxide and other waste products. Now, this blood is supplied by our coronary arteries. Now, if a coronary artery becomes partially or completely blocked by fatty deposits, it's called plaques. Now, this is mainly formed from cholesterol. The arteries are not as elastic as they should be, and therefore cannot stretch to accommodate the blood which is being forced through them, and this can lead to coronary heart disease. Now, a partial blockage of the coronary arteries creates a restricted blood flow to the cardiac muscle cells, and this can result in severe chest pain. This is called angina. Now, if we have a complete blockage, it means cells in that area of the heart will not be able to respire and can no longer contract. Now, this leads to a heart attack.